Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Nice to see you all.
Can you hear me?
I'm doing well.
Good. So thank you for participating in this virtual meeting of the Western Riverside Council of Governments Executive Committee meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Before we begin, be sure to silence your other communication devices, cell phones, desk phone, to ensure that we're not hearing any feedback or causing interruption during the meeting. During the meeting, all participants except for the presenter and myself will be placed on mute. Hi, Dr. White. How are you? Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Nice to see you. Janice, will you please conduct roll call?
Certainly. City of Banning. Beaumont.
Here.
Calamasa.
Here.
Canyon Lake. I thought I saw Jordan Aaron Krantz's name earlier.
He's here.
Thank you. City of Corona. Eastville.
Present.
Hemet. Rupa Valley.
Present.
Lake Elsinore.
Here.
Menifee.
Here.
Moreno Valley.
Here.
Murrieta.
Here.
Norco.
Here.
Paris.
Here.
Riverside. San Jacinto. Temecula.
Here.
Is that Mr. Schwank?
Yeah, this is Zach Schrank.
Thank you, sir. Wildemar.
Thanks. Here.
County of Riverside, District 1. District 2.
Here.
District 3. District 5.
Here.
Eastern Municipal Water District.
Here.
Western Municipal Water District. Morongo Band of Mission Indians. Riverside County Superintendent of Schools. WRCOG TAC Chair.
Dr. White is present.
Thank you.
Did
That
you get
concludes-
City of Banning?
Steve Banning is present. Thank you, ma'am. One more time, Corona. Hemet. San Jacinto. County of Riverside, District 1. District 3. Western Municipal Water District. Morongo Band of Mission Indians. And I see San Jacinto popping in now. That concludes roll call, and we do have quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll open public comments. At this time, members of the public can address the committee regarding any items listed on this agenda. Members of the public will have an opportunity to speak on agendized items at the time the item is called for discussion. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Whenever possible, lengthy testimony should be presented to the committee in writing and only pertinent points presented orally. For guest speakers or public comments, please adhere to the speaker limit of 3 minutes. Please treat others with courtesy and civility and respect the public meeting process. Janice, do we have any public comments?
I have no requests.
All that and no requests. All right, closing public comments, moving on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and may be enacted by one motion. Prior to the motion to consider any action by the committee, any public comments on any of the consent items may be heard. Does anybody wish to pull a consent item? Do we have anybody wishing to speak from the public on a consent item?
I have no requests.
Okay. So can I get a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Did you get that, Janice?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Moreno Valley.
Thank
There you
you.
Banning seconds.
Thank you.
Can we have a roll call, Janice?
City of Banning.
Yes.
Beaumont.
Yes.
Calamasa.
Yes.
Canyon Lake.
Yes.
Corona. Eastville.
Yes.
Emmett, Upa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Paris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar,
Yes.
County of Riverside District 1, District 2,
Yes.
District 3, District 5.
Yes.
Eastern Municipal, I'm sorry, is District 5 present?
Yes, I said yes.
Thank you,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
Eastern Municipal Water District? Western Municipal Water District?
Yes.
Morongo Band of Mission Indians? And that concludes the roll call vote for that item, and it passes unanimously.
Thank you, Janice. Moving on to 5A, report from the League of Cities. Aaron Sassy, are you around?
I'm here.
Hi, Aaron. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see everyone. Well, I just wanted to give a brief legislative update. I'm sure a lot of you saw that the federal Senate released another stimulus package. And unfortunately, despite our efforts and the National League of Cities efforts, they did not include funding for local governments in this latest package. I know we will be doing a big effort with the National League to try to get them to add it. We think that really this week is critical because they're supposed to go on recess. And it's a little bit disappointing as well because even our local congressional members have been saying that they thought this next package would include funding for local government. So my encouragement to all of you is when I get that action alert out, hopefully today, please call Congressman Calvert in particular and ask him to include funding for our cities. A couple items that are in this package though, it would actually make the CARES dollars more flexible. It could go to, keeps ringing, but it could actually go towards economic loss. So it wouldn't just necessarily be tied to COVID related expenses. So if that stays in it, that would definitely be good. It also lifts restrictions that states, like in California, they added some additional restrictions. It would say basically states can't do that. And that basically the money would have to be used however the federal government allowed it to go down. Also, the state released a $100 billion package, which also does not include money for local governments. We're not really sure what's going to happen with this because it would require a lot of legislation to enact everything they're trying to do. There is one piece that we are a little bit concerned about though. It does include the sales tax deferral, which I know is hurting many of our cities already. And then also there is a bill that we think could be tied to this. It's SB 1351 from Senator Bell. They want to bond against some of the SB 1 revenue, and we're working with him right now on that. But our concern is if they do this, it could have an impact of how much money you all receive from SB 1 funds. So I think it was an unintended consequence of this idea, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to get that fixed before that goes out. And then just legislatively, there is one bill that I want to just highlight, AB 1279. It's basically an SB 50 light bill. So I know that a lot of you hated that bill in the past. We fought hard. It's sort of a new version of that. And so we have an opposed unless amended position. We do have a sample letter if any of you want to do that. Definitely look at that. And then I already mentioned the SB 1351, which is the one with Senator Bell that we're working on. But I think a couple of days ago, Wednesday, I sent out a big legislative list of kind of what's remaining, but definitely a weird year when it comes to the legislature, just because they had hearings and now they have a lot of work to get done. There's politics in play. The Senate feels like the Assembly feels like the Senate isn't allowing enough of many of their bills, so they've delayed some hearings. So they have a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Do you have any questions from the public or the committee? Well, nobody? Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on to 5B, Riverside County Economic Recovery Task Force activities update. Juan Perez, the reopening of the county in concert with state guidance and directives.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have going to give you kind of a quick round robin update on different activities going on in the county. First, on the public health trends, as of last Friday, we had Riverside County was at 37,000 cases. We had reported 382 cases last Friday. I should point out that we are seeing some lag in the reporting between the labs and the state reporting system that provides that data. So although you may be seeing some what appears to be a downward trend in cases, we know that some of that is attributed to that lag, and we're still in the process of trying to get a handle on exactly how much of that. One other issue on the metrics I think may have caught, I know it caught some media attention, and I thought I would mention it. County last week did report on the first results of an antibody study that basically, based on a sampling of over 1,700 individuals, we were showing a positivity rate of 5.9 or 6%, which if you extrapolate that to our total population puts the estimate up somewhere between 118,000 and 175,000. So it does show that, again, based on a study with a limited size, but it does show it's the first results we've seen of an antibody study trying to determine what the degree of spread is throughout the county. I did want to switch gears to a few other programs that are more directly in line with the Economic Recovery Task Force. First of all, our business assistance program. We have that program's been very successful. The board had allocated $45 million in CARES Act dollars towards that program. As of this last week, we spent $19.7 million in direct assistance to our local businesses, with another $8.8 million committed. So over $28 million that we're going to be seeing here distributed to our local businesses. As you can expect, we have seen quite an uptick in applications since the governor announced the last round of shutdowns again. And what we are seeing is actually, and there's a good report on our board agenda tomorrow for those that want to get into the details more. We're seeing a lot of the funding requests come from the smaller businesses. Professional services are the largest one, about 30%. About half of the businesses in total receiving assistance have between 0 and 4 employees. So we're seeing those small businesses, the sole proprietors, the folks at the barber shops and the nail salons and what have not, really coming more and more to this program for assistance since this last round of closures. The county last week launched our Business Ambassador Program, and this is there's information there on our websites. This is a program whereby we have set up a request form on the Rivco Biz Help website, where those businesses that want to receive additional guidance on how to comply with the state requirements can reach out and do that. We visited about half a dozen businesses so far just in the first couple of days, and we're going to see that number continuing to grow. For those of you that are in your cities are interested in learning more about the program, please feel free to have your staff reach out to us as well. Reach out to me directly as well. And we're happy to connect them, and we're happy to let each of the cities know when we receive a request within your individual jurisdiction so that you can be part of that effort with us as well. Rental assistance, the county again has been at the forefront of trying to provide assistance through through that program. Report on the board tomorrow shows about close to 2,500 folks have been are eligible for assistance based on the first round of eligibility requirements that we've looked at. Those funds are being dispersed through the United Way for the Western County area and Lift to Rise out in the Eastern County and the Pass area. And we're seeing an average unpaid rent balance amongst the applicants of about $2,500. So again, starting to put some numbers to the challenge and the pain that our folks are seeing economically. I do want to highlight just a couple of things really quickly. Tomorrow there is a board agenda item as well. I believe it's brought forward by Chairman Perez to allocate funding to assist the schools in online learning, be able to provide computers, what have you, for online learning. So that's a $10 million allocation through the Riverside County Office of Education that will be made eligible to our schools to be able to do that. And the last thing I'll touch on is the Mask Our Medicine campaign. I know many of you saw about a week ago or so, the county launched that effort. It's our goal is to distribute 10 million masks over the next 30 days or so. It's an ambitious undertaking, but our desire is to really work very hard with that and with other initiatives going on as far as social media, campaigns and radio ads and what have you to help get folks to practice the physical distancing, to wear the mask as medicine, if you will, to be able to prevent the spread, frequent hand washing and hygiene. Those are kind of the three big topics that we're focusing on. And the goal is really to see how we can work with all of our residents to see some noticeable change here in the next 30 days in our trends and stats. So that's just kind of a quick update on several different things. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have, Commissioner.
Thank you, Juan. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Juan, public or from the committee?
City of Beaumont has his hand raised, sir.
Great. City of Beaumont.
Juan, can you give us who's handling the rental assistance again for the pass area? I didn't catch that.
I believe that's Lift to Rise is the organization that's handling the Coachella Valley, East County, and the Pass area. I'm not sure where the boundary is between the United Way and the Lift to Rise, but I will get that information to Janice so that they have the direct link that she can send out to everybody.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
I see Rusty.
Hey, Juan, thanks County for great partnership during a very difficult time, and appreciate the open lines of communication. The difference between business assistance program and business ambassador program, could you speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the business assistance is a grant of up to $10,000. I believe it's $10,000 per business. That goes to eligible businesses that apply through the program and meet the eligibility criteria. So that's a monetary contribution. The Business Ambassador Program is an effort to try to help those businesses that reach out to us wanting more information as to what they can do to stay open or modify their services to be compliant with the state requirements. So that's really more of a technical guidance that we provide to help them either stay open or modify their operations so they can get open in accordance with the state requirements. So,
and there's no difference between either program in terms of unincorporated or incorporated areas?
Correct. We offer them throughout both incorporated and unincorporated as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. White.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you also to Juan for the presentation. And I heard you say that you're trying to get millions of masks out to the public. And one of the venues you may want to consider is our meal program where the parents come and pick up their meals, because that's a place where perhaps if there were some masks there, they're out already. So I'm just trying to think of ways we can partner.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. White. That's a great idea. and I'll put our folks in touch with your folks to do that. And I would say, as I think most of you are aware, we have already issued, we started even before this effort started, through our Economic Recovery Task Force, through our different chambers of commerce and tourism bureaus. We've issued close to 1 million masks, maybe about 800,000 or so. But in addition to that, if any of you would like additional deliveries directly to your city halls, we can certainly do that, or other places where we can get that out as much as possible. So we welcome your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. White. Supervisor Spiegel.
Yes, Juan, thank you again for leading a dynamic team that has really touched various entities within our community during this time. You talked about the business assistants and the business ambassador, the real assistants, but we also still have the nonprofit grants that we're giving out, as well as On Tomorrow to Virginia is a youth conservative, more of an internship. It's very short, it's not competitive with WRCOG, but it's just trying to help a few of our youth during this time also. So we're trying to go into the different sections in our communities. Everyone could use a little help during this time, and those who don't need it are gracious enough not to take those resources, which has been very impressive. But there are some businesses, there's some individuals, there's nonprofits that definitely need this. So please continue to spread the word within your communities, your cities, because it's important that we get the message out. And thank you, Dr. White, for jumping in on the mask, because that was supposed to be my next section, is that as the kids are utilizing some of the services at the schools, it's parents walk them there, and this is how we get some masks out to families. And that's what this new 10 million masks is all about, is trying to get it to the families. We have the whole business program that Juan was leading up and distributing masks to our businesses. Now we're trying to get them out into the families. So thank you, everybody who's participating. You got any new suggestions, new ideas? You know, we're up to trying anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Spiegel. Anybody else? Seeing none, we will move on to 5C, presentation by Darren Chizzy, Direct SCAG's Connect SoCal Plan. Darren, thank you. Hi.
Hello, good to see everybody. I'm Darren Chitsey. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at SCAG Chair. Thank you very much for the time. I do have a couple slides that I'll run through. Oh, you guys got them. I was all ready to load them up. So just as quick background, the reason why I wanted to check in with WRCOG today, and thank you, Rick, for helping us get on the agenda, is just to give the group a little bit of an update of our Connect SoCal plan. As background, the Southern California Association of Governments every 4 years does a long-range regional transportation plan, housing plan, looking at economic development, looking at where growth might happen over a 20-plus year horizon. We do this plan for a lot of reasons, the core of which is for federal transportation conformity. Every transportation project in all of Southern California that gets federally funded or is deemed regionally significant must be part of this plan. But we also do it certainly under different state guidelines and rules, and that's where the sustainable community strategy portion of the plan comes in. But a third part of that is really, it's just a good for Southern California every couple of years to really work together in a uniform way to start to think about you know, what the region might look like 20+ years from now. We all know, particularly, you know, folks in Western Riverside, they commute to many different counties to work, and certainly air quality and congestion and housing issues are such regional problems that it's you know, kind of an opportunity for every couple of years to really take a step back and think, what can we do in the future to make these different challenges better for the residents that are going to come after us. So we released this current plan that we're working on now in November for public review and comment. And certainly it was due for adoption in April. And as we all know, what happened in mid-March, certainly the world changed a lot. And as we're thinking about bringing this plan forward from adoption, there were many different voices we were hearing from that were saying, now is not the time to adopt a long-range plan. There needs to be extra time for stakeholders to review the plan. Certainly our member cities and counties were dealing with much more immediate needs on the public health crisis, as they still are today, but even more acutely as it was so new in March. That there were a lot of discussions to postpone the plan. Those discussions continued ongoing, and our regional council, our governing body, which many of you sit on, voted in May to adopt a portion of the plan, but delay another portion of the plan for up to 120 days. So just wanted to give everybody a little bit of an update about what's happening in that time. It's been almost 3 months ago now, and there's some discourse and discussion still ongoing that you might have heard about, and so hopefully I can answer some of those questions if you've been plugged into what's going on or have heard feedback from different stakeholders on this plan. So in May, like I said, our regional council voted to adopt the federal portion of the plan. And what that means is all of the several thousand transportation projects that were part of the plan did get submitted to the federal government. That was an important deadline to meet because we wanted to ensure that Southern California didn't lapse its conformity, meaning our air quality determination that's made by US EPA that allows these projects to move forward. There was some concern that we might not be able to get in under that deadline that had been previously established. So we're able to get that to the federal government, and we received back determination that yes, in fact, the transportation projects as well as the air quality conformity, ensuring that these transportation projects as a group will meet the Clean Air Act we got a determination that we did meet that conformity, meaning all those projects can continue to move forward without any interruption, which obviously given the time we're in and how much of a need to focus on economic development during this time is critical that there was no disruption to any transportation revenues coming into the region. But there was a few other issues that needed to be addressed. Certainly, one of which was around different entitlements. There was some concern raised that perhaps not every housing project that had been entitled was part of this plan. Certainly other stakeholders were raising concerns about, given the pandemic, is it an opportunity that we might need to take a step back and think, how does our transportation system look in the future? Is what we're learning over the last several months going to change a long-term strategy for the region? And so that's one of the main things that we focused on, is trying to gain a little bit more information about how our stakeholders, our local jurisdictions, and many others in the region thought we might need to kind of readjust the plan in light of COVID-19. So we did host a virtual town hall. We had great attendance on that, as well as did some other series of surveys to try to get that type of information back from the region to know how or we might need to adjust moving forward. The next slide. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But the first item that certainly was raised as part of this need to do a little bit more work is the transportation plan and the sustainable community strategy is based on a lot of input that we get from local jurisdictions. This takes 3 years. We start meeting with every city that's 191 in the SCAG region, all the counties, to start to understand what do they see as growth look like? What are their general plans? When have they been updated? And so we take all that information, all that data, and sometimes it takes a little adjustments because not every general plan, as you know, goes out to 2045. It might not be looking at the same timeline of this plan. And so we work with all of those jurisdictions to identify what the long range might look like. There's also a part of it that we look at, given the certain policies that are adopted in the plan about how transportation and housing certainly relate and build off of each other. Are there ways that we might be able to encourage different types of development in the future that might be better for air quality, might be better for congestion, might provide greater access to other amenities throughout the region? And so some of those growth forecasts within each city might be shifted a little bit. Certainly not something that SCAG has control over. It's always up to the local city about how they want to move forward their land use plans. But as we're moving forward to adopting this plan, there were some additional questions that were raised about how that process has proceeded. And so we wanted to go back and do some additional work on ensuring that we weren't missing any big projects as part of these updated growth forecasts. So we did an additional round of review and were able to incorporate all of those entitlements that we discovered might not have been completely represented that we got from our local jurisdictions during this time. So it was about 12 folks asked for specific adjustments during that time. And so happy to report that we have high confidence moving forward that the data in the plan, the underlying data in the plan is in a good spot. It is important to note that, of course, this is just advisory data. It's not shared with anyone. It helps us think about how our transportation models work, but it's no way used or has to be used by the city as they're approving projects in the future. Again, it's an advisory nature, long-range document to look at what might, how the region might grow differently. Next slide. So as we're working on that issue, that certainly is an important one, we also wanted to go back out and do a little bit more work on what we're learning on COVID over the long run. And certainly, it's an interesting time, as we all know. We're having this meeting right now via Zoom, so everyone's transportation patterns are certainly shifting. I'm sure many of you have read about and seen what's happening on the public transportation side, in transit, declining ridership, although we're starting to see a shift from that in the last month or so. So a lot of uncertainties, and we heard from many people, certainly most poignantly, the lack of income was the #1 priority. Obviously, how are they going to pay rent? How are they going to pay mortgages? And a lot of uncertainty around that. But as you all know, in your roles as elected officials, certainly how local jurisdictions and cities and counties receive revenue, a lot of questions around that. What types of services are going to be provided, certainly more needs for services, but less resources to do so. And with that, then how does the cities think about, redevelopment, updating general plans, all those planning activities that help kind of bring some of the ideas in the plan together are certainly going to be impacted over the long run. But while many of these issues are certainly very serious and need a lot of extra thought right now, the vast majority of respondents thought, when you look out 20+ years in the future, out to 2045, which is where the plan is going, that most of these issues, will find a way to work themselves out over that timeline. And so there needs to be an additional work and research and thought. But right now, given what we've learned over the last couple months, there wasn't overwhelming information and data to think that we needed to shift anything specifically in the plan at this time, because about 90% of respondents thought that certainly the goals and the products and the ideas as part of the plan were important, or even more important in light of where we are with COVID-19. So next slide. So moving forward, again, our regional council adopted this action in May. They'll be considering it again in September, a final adoption of the plan. We have estimated that we've gotten through some of the data issues that had been raised at that time and have updated information that we'll be providing to our board come September. The modifications around COVID are certainly critical, and we'll continue to monitor and might even need an amendment at some point in the future. But given that we don't have a real great pool of data yet to understand what's happening today and how that might continue on into the future with regards to telework and telemedicine and all these important things, there's no real updates that we're preparing to offer to the plan at this time, but we'll continue to monitor them as we move forward, and certainly tightly look at kind of our emerging issues that will come out of our next planning cycle. Next slide. So as I've said, right now we're briefing stakeholders such as yourselves, many other groups, working with community-based organizations throughout Southern California. We're looking at what an implementation plan for the plan would look like, again, with an eye towards economic development. How can a plan like this really help to revitalize communities, bring economic development opportunities forward, with the eye towards looking at getting approval of our regional council in September, that we could then send the final plan to the state. And the last slide. Oh, there's one more in there, but I'll just add that, I just want to add one thing of importance about why now. As I mentioned at the beginning, the plan at the state level has to identify how Southern California is meeting our greenhouse gas reduction targets. And these are targets that are set by the California Air Resources Board. If Southern California can't demonstrate that and doesn't have an adopted sustainable community strategy, many of the programs out there require those fundings to go to regions that have an adopted sustainable community strategy that meets the target. So there's certain transportation projects and grant funds that might not be eligible to receive funding. There's certain housing projects that would be in that same category. So it's important, obviously, that we collectively come together to think about what Southern California might look like as a region, but at the same time, we also must meet these important regulatory requirements to ensure that other parts of the state don't receive resources that should be coming to Southern California because we don't have an adopted plan in place. So certainly happy to answer any questions. I know I went through a lot in a little bit of time, but just wanted to kind of put this on your radar and be here to answer a little more in-depth questions if anyone should have them.
Thank you, Darren. Anybody have any questions? I see no hands raised. I think you're off the hook. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chair. Good to see everybody.
Bye-bye. Moving on to 5D Innovation 2030 Activities Update. Alyssa Laurel has an initiative aimed to deliver world-class programming that connects employers to entrepreneurs, coupled with a mission to build an innovation-driven economy by the year 2030. Alyssa, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Executive Committee. Alyssa Laurel, Program Manager with WRCOG, and I'm pleased to present an update on our Innovation 2030 program. I think that this also dovetails well with Connect SoCal and, again, bringing sustainable jobs to our community. So next slide, please. So to give a little bit of a brief introduction, I thought I might give a little bit of context to our current economic climate. According to a recent McKinsey report, about 800 million people nationally will be unemployed due to automation, and about 60% in this region jobs are most susceptible to automation. I believe we're about the fourth most susceptible metro area. The Inland Empire is most susceptible to automation, and this is very indicative and has only been accelerated by the current COVID-19 climate. We know that our service economy is very vulnerable. Our service worker, our restaurant workers, and service economies continue to be impacted by COVID-19, and then obviously automation. Next slide, please. So this brings me to WRCOG's efforts towards bringing world-class entrepreneurship programming to the subregion. Back in 2012, WRCOG's leadership identified 6 interrelated components critically important to achieving a premier quality of life in Western Riverside County, and incorporated these into the WRCOG, or what's known as the WRCOG Economic Development and Sustainability Framework. This serves as a guide to grow strategically and achieve a vibrant and livable community, and the 6 elements include economic development, water and wastewater, education, health, transportation, energy, and environment. So WRCOG's Economic Development and Sustainability Framework served as essentially the baseline to launch a 14-month feasibility study towards a physical sustainability center, which is also known as Experience. We included a range of programming options from agricultural innovation to sustainability, education, as well as a robust facility idea complete with a conference center, restaurant, and edible garden. The analysis concluded that the general concept of Experience would be financially viable, and that the City of Riverside would actually be the host, most suitable jurisdiction for this particular sustainability center. However, in the process, we identified that a sustainability center would not be successful without programming. Thus, Innovation 2030 was born, which was the implementation process towards creating world-class entrepreneurship programming for the region. Next slide, please. And so why Innovation 2030? Well, entrepreneurs need support by teaching them how to find investment, connect with investors, go to market quicker, scaling their businesses, or they'll leave the region. Next slide, please. I'd like to share with you a major case study particular to the Riverside area. Some of you already may know this company, some of you may not, so I just thought I might bring this to everyone's attention. A major technology company by the name of SendGrid which started actually at UCR and now employs 350 employees, actually left the Riverside area and took their headquarters and company to Denver. They now have revenues of 119 million. They started at UCR, unfortunately left the state. When they did come back, they actually ended up in Irvine and have multiple offices in Denver, Boulder, and other parts of California. They credited their success in their programming to the mentorship in the Denver area. So I think this speaks volumes of the need of innovative programming necessary for the subregion to create sustainable jobs. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So jurisdictions need to act like innovators. We need to think more like a startup. We need to do things quicker. We need to try new things, be able to pivot, and help entrepreneurs and create an environment that welcomes innovation. Next slide, please. So that brings me to Innovation 2030 programming. We engaged best practice in the Los Angeles area and brought it here to the subregion. The Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator program model created about 625 million in long-term economic value and 250 million in new revenue for the Los Angeles area. We sought to do the same in the subregion and bring this level of programming to elevate our regional economic base. Next slide, please. And we engaged partners in innovation to do this who are here today. WRCOG sought a consultant team that had the experience with bringing world-class entrepreneurship programming experience, and Engine, the Network for Global Innovation, which consisted of the co-founder of the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator and Tom White. Basically, the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator was identified as a strong model for the experience development when we were looking at a sustainability center. And the Lacey staff referred us to Fred, who founded Lacey and served as its CEO for the first 6 years of the Lacey operation. And he launched similar concepts and programming throughout the United States and across the globe. Engine identified there is a need in this subregion in Western Riverside County for a world-class entrepreneurship program. They identified that there's about 1,000 tech companies looking for funding in this area. They want mentorship. They need programming such as what Engine has created for others across the globe, and particularly for the LA-based area. And we had an overall positive response from 50+ stakeholders that were interviewed in the public, private, and academic areas within the subregion. Essentially, the call to action was the formation of an independent nonprofit organization focused on driving the innovation economy. Next slide, please. And so now we've concluded kind of our efforts with Engine. We're continuing to still work in partnership with them, one of which is identifying possible funding for Innovation 2030. That is one area that we've identified is the Regions Rising Grant Program, otherwise known as AB 3205. And this pending legislation will create a grant program for innovative economic development activities, and feedback from our legislators and staff for the proposed approach is consistent with the aims of AB 3205. We've received very positive feedback from the governor's office and others in Sacramento, so we plan to continue moving forward with our efforts. Next slide, please. And given the benefits to the WRCOG subregion of what a successful innovation economy could bring, we hope to accomplish 3 specific actions here today. One of which is coordinating with the City of Riverside and the University of California to merge our efforts in an equitable manner to benefit all parties involved. Number 2 is to continue to apply for any available grant funding to implement the program. And number 3, to develop a coalition of partners to continue to pursue funding through AB 3205 or any other grant initiatives that may be available. Next slide, please. And so that concludes my presentation. I have Fred Walty from Engine and Tom White here, who served as our consultants on the project, to answer any questions, including myself and staff. Thank you.
All right, I see that Karen Spiegel has her hand raised. Karen?
Yes, real quick, Lisa, when you were talking earlier about SendGrid and they went from being at UCR and then they left, what was the whole reasoning for their moving, and then when they came back to California, they went to Irvine instead of coming back in our area?
So one of the areas that I understood from as an economic development practitioner was the lack of talent, number 1, and then number 2 particularly was just essentially kind of the support base that was needed to help foster their development overall. They left, unfortunately, the Riverside area for the reason of not having enough mentorship and programming. And then when they came back to California, I understood from my networks that talent was one of the lacking areas that they were looking at, and just a greater ecosystem for innovation.
So with the three things that you spoke earlier about, and one being the partner with the city of Riverside and UCR, is that the only partners within the city, or can other cities participate?
Certainly,
as far as the big picture?
Yes, essentially the intent is for this to be sub-regional and for the programming to be sub-regional. It's going to be all-inclusive, not just limited to the Riverside area. I only brought that up as a particular example and case study. But the intent for the program overall, and I think what's positive about the Innovation 2030 project and differentiates it from experience, is experience was focused particularly on a place, and it was kind of limited by jurisdictional boundaries. But with Innovation 2030 program, that allows us to have more of a all-inclusive model where programming supersedes jurisdictional boundaries and can allow for greater access for entrepreneurs in terms of education, entrepreneurship, and a robust set of other things. And I also have Fred Walty here too, if he wants to chime in on anything that I may have missed.
I just wanted to focus on
You're doing a wonderful job, Elisa.
of picking up the pieces where we may have missed the boat. So I think the evaluations are always very critical as far as an exit interview of some nature, so that we could see where in future. And it may have been, if it's an industry that we just don't have that mentorship, it very well may have left our region anyway. But the fact of being involved, like if the city of Riverside has so many different things to offer. But if they wanted to go down, say somewhere down in Temecula or another city, that their partnership with the cities is just as important as the partnership with the mentors. So it's kind of an all-inclusive. And I like the concept, and I really like what you guys are doing. I just want to make sure that we keep people here rather than lose them.
Right.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Hewitt.
Yeah, first of all, I just, Elisa, maybe I saw it wrong, but did you, on your first slide, have it that 800 million were going to be displaced by automation in the United States?
That's a typo on my part. It's 800 million globally, not in the U.S.
Okay, all right. Globally, I could see that. We only got 3 here, so.
It's about 40% in the U.S. overall are potentially vulnerable to automation in the next 10 to 20 years versus 60% in Inland Empire.
And Fred, while you're at it, am I correct in thinking that high-tech companies want to go to areas that, number one, that some of the world's leading academic institutes, for instance, like Stanford, like Harvard, like MIT, like Caltech, and such like that, University of Texas, whatever. The UCR is coming along. It's certainly a great, but it isn't in that category yet, and doesn't it kind of cluster around those centers, and it's tough to break away and get a new Silicon Hill or a Pittsburgh or something like that?
Well, it's an interesting concept. It's been both, frankly. There have been some great innovation hubs that have been built around, obviously, universities, research universities, and there have been some that are not. I think you have to kind of develop your plan basis what you have. I don't mean you particularly, but you need to develop a game plan with what you have. And I think that one of the strengths of the region is the number of innovators and innovation programs and entrepreneurs and people that are interested. That is a real strength. But what we're not doing is we're not really taking full advantage of that strength, because we're not linking them together. We're not really working together like we could. And so that I think we could play with anybody if we could figure out how to coordinate, collaborate, share best practices, share investment, share customers. I think that should be our strategy. And by the way, UCR is a great research university that is coming along, that does have pretty big plans, has some real areas of strength that are important, and that we would want to work very closely with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Mayor Bailey.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa and Fred and WRCOG, first and foremost, I should say, in terms of your patience with this process and with the city of Riverside. And I appreciated the comments in terms of it not just benefiting one city, especially just Riverside. This is, a hub and spoke type of program, or at least movement, is to support each other regionally. And I think that's been our weakness, at least in my mind, for the last 13 years in office, of a regional economic development entity and or hub for businesses to go to link to our vast county. And so it's nice to be able to at least cut it in half, so to speak, with Western Riverside. And I think there's conversations we've had at admin and finance and otherwise that'll be coming forward in terms of an economic development corporation. If I could leave you all with anything, it would be that's a structure that really we have to have that structure going forward, because there's been fits and starts with regional economic development because of leadership changes, whether it's the mayor, whether it's the board, whether it's the chancellor, or you name the organization, there's changes. And without a structure, a framework that forces us to get out of our silos, that forces us to come together, we're not going to have regional economic development, especially in a hub and spoke format. And so I just want to encourage this body and others to continue that momentum in developing an economic development corporation as a structure to move this agenda forward. And Fred and his team are perfect for that, I believe. They've done their due diligence. They can speak to those strengths and weaknesses. They've done more than a SWOT analysis, but they can speak to that, off their cuff and tell us the differences between our region and other regions. And they know that we have competitive advantages here that can definitely pull business out of OC or from LA. And so I don't want to lose this momentum is the bottom line. And I think that economic development corporation that we're talking about, and I think it will come, Rick, I don't know when you're planning on bringing that to executive committee, but I hope that we'll continue to support the Innovation 2030 movement, and that we continue to connect the dots in a formative way that's going to last a long time. If we don't create a structure such as an EDC or whatever you want to call it, we're not going to have, a long-term impact on our region. It's just going to continue to ebb and flow, and our silos are going to continue to prevent us from communicating, especially in COVID. I mean, it's hard to during COVID to think long-term, but it's the right thing to do, especially when you see the statistics on automation, et cetera. If we're not thinking about it now, we're going to be behind the curve, and we have a lot of momentum. We have a lot of groundwork laid through that process of the experience, and now Innovation 2030. And so let's not drop this ball. Let's continue to quarterback it as WRCOG and pull in UCR and our cities and the chambers. The private sector really should be leading this in the economic development corporation that we establish, get it out of the government sector and into the hands of the private sector. And that's where Fred is perfect. And so thanks again, Fred, and team for getting us to this point.
Rusty, thank you, but I want to jump on your point here. The key learning that we took away from the LA experience, and now it's been reinforced by research of ecosystems, is that it's imperative that there's an independent organization formed whose specific and frankly only job is to make that happen on a region-wide basis. That's independent, that serves everyone, so that somebody doesn't feel like they're working with a particular city or organization more or less. And I think it's really key. And we were fortunate to have that in Los Angeles, and it was without that, I don't think we would have been successful, frankly.
And if I can
thank you, Rusty, for your kind words, and let's go.
Yeah, And if I can chime in, to dovetail with Mayor Bailey's comments and Fred, I think what's one of the biggest thing that strikes me is proof of concept. And Fred and his team, I, as an economic development practitioner, have experienced their ability in terms of their programming at Lacey to bring companies to fruition and into commercialization. I've helped companies into San Bernardino County when I worked in San Bernardino County to help companies grow in that area. And so the ability to foster that here, particularly in our subregion, I think would be very advantageous. And, to Fred and his team, they have the proof of concept, they have the experience to do that. It's a best practice model in a region right next to us. So certainly want to support this and continue the momentum overall. So with that, any other questions?
I don't see any. Do you have there we are. So we have two requested actions, as you can see on your screen. First one is direct staff to continue with current efforts to secure funding for this initiative. 2, provide an update to the executive committee on the results of these efforts by March 31st, 2021.
I'll move that.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Moreno Valley.
Okay. Roll call vote, please, Janice.
City of Banning,
Yes.
City of Beaumont,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake, Corona,
Yes.
Eastvale,
Yes.
Hemet, Yarupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemore,
Yes.
County of Riverside, District 1, 2, District 2,
Yes.
District 3, thank you, District 3, District 5,
Yes.
Eastern Municipal Water District, Western Municipal Water District, Morongo Band of Mission Indians. That concludes the roll call vote and it passes unanimously.
Thank you, Janice. Moving on to 5E, activities update from the Eastern Municipal Water District, Western Municipal Water District. This is a joint presentation with Mr. Jones and Mrs. Denstadt. Take it away, please.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Paul Jones, General Manager at Eastern Municipal Water District. Ron Sullivan couldn't join us today, so I'll be giving the presentation. Eastern Municipal Water District's been working closely with Western to advance a project to develop a substantial new reliable water supply for our region and to address a groundwater contamination in what's known as the Paris North Groundwater Basin. The project, which I'm going to be talking to you about today, will produce an amount of water that's equivalent to that used by about 13,500 families in 1 year, while at the same time removing some natural and man-made contaminants in the groundwater basin and providing an important supplemental potable water supply for the March Air Reserve Base. In 2017, we began to develop a groundwater pumping and purification strategy to kind of clean up and utilize the substantial groundwater reserves present in this basin, which is generally located in the northern Paris, southern Moreno Valley area, south of SR 60 and east of I-215. Groundwater pumping in this area had significantly decreased over the last several decades due to the conversion from agriculture to urban land uses, and because the groundwater needed costly treatment to remove a combination of man-made contaminants and natural impairments in the groundwater, such as salinity. The result of the lack of pumping, the groundwater levels, even during the drought in the 2016 period, have steadily risen. And in some areas, the groundwater levels are within a few feet of the ground, and that's caused some challenges with construction. The project we're proposing is made up of several major significant infrastructure components, including 9 new groundwater production wells, water treatment facilities, several miles of pipelines, water blending stations, and a number of monitoring wells. After we developed the project scope, we applied for a grant from the State Water Resources Control Board under a specific state program they have to mitigate and clean up groundwater basins. And we really received overwhelming support for the grant, not only from Western Municipal Water District, but from key representatives in the region, including the cities, the county, of course, chamber, members of our legislature and Congress, and very importantly, WRCOG. And so I want to thank you all for that support. As a result of the effort, we are initially awarded a grant for the project of $36 million. But through further negotiations with the state, we were able to increase that amount to $45 million to address a state requested expansion to the scope of the project, and also to account for some additional eligible costs that we could be reimbursed for. That $45 million grant will ultimately fund 50% of the project's $89 million construction cost. And from a water rate perspective, with the state grant funding, water from this project is actually going to cost about 35% less than imported water from the Colorado River in Northern California that we purchased from the Metropolitan Water District. In addition, the project's going to ultimately alleviate the rising groundwater condition in the areas adjacent to the March Air Reserve Base in southern Moreno Valley. So at the present time, we're working closely with our partners, including Western, also the city of Moreno Valley, and I want to thank them for their help with development of the project, and with the March Air Reserve Base. And we're quickly advancing this project to meet some very strict requirements and deadlines associated with the grant. The project's scheduled to be operational in mid-2023, and we're already well underway with the engineering, environmental compliance and review, property acquisition, and permitting for the project. So that's kind of what I have on this project and for my report today. Thanks for the opportunity to give you an update. And we'll continue to give updates as the project advances into construction. But we're very pleased with the project and the benefits that it's going to provide the regions. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'll answer those now or after Brenda gives her report. Thank you.
I see nobody's hand raised, but does somebody have a question? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on to 5F, activities, an update from the Riverside County Superintendent of Schools. Dr. White, thank you. Information on reopening schools.
Mr. Chair, I think Director Dennistet's going to provide a presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Brenda. Please go ahead. I apologize, Dr. White. I don't see her anywhere. Brenda?
She's here.
She's hidden in there somewhere. Okay, we got a question.
It's not working.
I see her on the screen. I just cannot hear her. Brenda.
Oh, somebody has unmuted me because the little lady just talked on the thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
God bless technology.
I didn't mean to forget about you. I apologize.
Yeah, I'll catch up with you later.
And you know how to wrestle, so I have to watch out.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a really long time, and I look forward to the next time we get to meet all in person, and I get to see all of your smiling faces all at once instead of one by one on a screen. So God bless technology for all of our challenges today. So I just wanted to give you a brief update on the safety of water during COVID. I want to make sure that everybody understands the level of treatment and processes that we go through to make sure and ensure that we're still here providing service to the public and to the community and to all of the businesses locally in the region. So thank you for Paul Jones for giving that report on behalf of my colleague over there, Ron Sullivan, who could not attend today's meeting. He is the director over there at the Eastern Board, so we appreciate our partnership with our sister agency over there. One of the things, first and foremost, I want to let you know is that even during the pandemic, all of the water agencies in the region are still providing essential services. We are essential workers. We are exempt from the stay-at-home orders, and we are still operating every single day to provide you with clean and safe drinking water. So Western and all of the field staff over here, we have incorporated a number of safety practices to keep our personnel safe. We operate in what we've called micro groups so that we have small teams of people, and we've located them out at a variety of different facilities so that they're all not reporting at the same facility all at once, so that if one person does come in fact in contact with somebody who is COVID positive, that we don't take out the entire team, so that they can get quarantined within small groups of 3, 4, or 5 people rather than our entire operations staff of over 70. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. We've only had 3 actual employees test positive, and we track those all down to outside occurrences. So they haven't received those from work. Those received from family members that they contracted first at home and then got in contact with them. But they are all since recovered and have returned back to work. So we are very grateful for their good health and return to work for providing service. As far as the water quality is concerned and the safety of water, obviously we treat and we do all kinds of advanced processes to eliminate pathogens, which includes all of the COVID-19 and the coronavirus. And so we want you to know that we are testing it, we're treating it, and we monitor it on a daily basis to protect your health and safety. Collectively, water agencies within the region in Riverside County conduct more than 80,000 water quality tests annually to ensure that water meets or exceeds state guidelines and federal drinking water standards. So there's a lot of testing that's going on. So we want to ensure the public, and we want to ensure your cities and all of your customers there that water is safe to use. So please turn your tap on, wash your hands, do your regular business the way that you would. We want you to perform that, and it's all safe to do so. The other thing we have done too, Western has suspended all water shutoffs. We took that action before the order came out from the governor and the state to mandate that. We have since decided that that's going to continue forward for a time because of the environment. So we are not at this time going to shut off anybody's water service for failure or lack of payment. So we will be considering doing those at a future board meeting, and we'll continue to discuss those in the long haul. So for people, all these people that are laid off from their jobs or have been furloughed or are not working or really meeting some challenges economically, we certainly don't want to add insult to injury, and we want you to be able to provide you with the safe drinking water to be able to do all of your sanitary issues at home as well, like your laundry and your dishes and showering and washing your hands. So we have adapted virtually, just like everybody else has. We conduct most of our meetings here virtually. All of our customers can engage on our meetings virtually with us. We've put all that information out. So any questions that we have in regard to servicing or anything that's going on out in the community and what we're providing on a daily basis is available through all of our platforms. Our lobby is closed to customer traffic, so we still are not interfacing with the public in that manner, but we certainly have a call assistance center, and we're providing that service to everyone along with any of the virtual meetings that they would like to attend. So our general manager, Craig Miller, also hosts community business calls with all of our department heads. So we're checking on all of our department heads to make sure that everything is going well with all of our development services and everything, interactions that we have with the surrounding community and people we do business with and operate on a daily basis. So a couple of interesting trends just to share with you. After the initial stay-at-home order by the governor in March, Western experienced a large slowdown in development services requests, but it has since started to bounce back. So we're getting a lot of development requests, and we're setting up appointments, and it's starting to get back to a normal pace. So on our side, as far as development is concerned, people are starting to move forward with their plans and submitting requests to hook up for water service and get those things moving forward. So we're happy to see that. Our customer volume since March, the number of calls coming into Western compared to this time last year, were down almost 18%. But seeing how everybody has made adjustments in their environment, we are continuing to now see a rise and return back to normal as far as conducting business and answering calls for service or taking care of billing matters or seeing fit with any of our businesses that have issues as they move forward with their development plans. And then we would think that water usage, because everybody is staying at home and they are doing all of these things instead of going off to a place of business, and children are at home from school rather than in classrooms, you would think that there would be a large demand increase for water volume use at your residential. And in fact, we are very surprised to see that there's only been a slight increase in the prior year. And we believe that this was a trend due to what was going on with the weather at the time. And so it's obviously summer and it's a little bit warmer, so we are seeing just a slight increase, which is very good news for us. Customers are doing a great job of continuing to conserve and do what they need to do to keep their bills reasonable. We also have seen over the last 3 months, the past due balance total has hovered around 115 to 140,000 of outstanding water service bills. So we have a assistance program that we will be helping our folks who have been laid off and have lost their jobs or having a problem doing that. It's a one-time assistance per calendar year, and so we'll be trying to increase those budgets amount as we move forward in order to help all of our customers as we return to normal business, hopefully sometime here in the near future. So all in all, Western is in very good shape. We are very happy with our budget and our personnel. We've had no interruptions of service, and we continue to see no interruption in our service as what we provide to everybody and due to the COVID outbreak. So with that, I am happy to entertain any questions, and that would be my update for today. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Brenda? I don't see any hands raised. All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Brenda.
Thank you.
Now moving on to Dr. White, give us an update on the reopening of schools in Riverside County. Good to see you, Dr. White.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm just going to ask you if you just put your arm across to your right to the left and your left to the right. If you cross your body, if you've been sitting a long time, just cross it. It helps your brain to open back up for a new voice. Thank you.
Oh.
Appreciating you so very much for this opportunity. We are all aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has continued to impact our world in very dramatic ways. So our schools were scheduled to open up using the 3 different models of in-person, hybrid, or parents' voice and choice for distance learning. But on Friday, July 24th, our governor was very clear in his order that reopening in-person learning for K-12 schools in California for the 2021 school year for this fall could not take place in a county that was on the monitoring list. So distance learning was mandated for all public, private, and charter schools located in a county that's on the monitoring list. And we know that Riverside is on the monitoring list because of scientific data points. However, using the health data, a county has to be off the list for 14 days in order for schools to be considered for their face-to-face learning. The order has also required the testing of staff, all their teachers and staff members, on a bi-monthly basis every 2 months. Every other month they'd have to be tested once school opens back up for face-to-face learning. So now that the decision has been made for all schools to open up with distance learning, it is important that you as leaders know the difference from the distance learning that was provided this past spring compared to the distance learning that will be provided this fall. And some of our school districts have already opened up. Corona NERCO opened up in August and several, in July, and several school districts opened up today. But in the past, it was reactive, it was short notice, it was about learning continuing to the end of the school year. Now that we know that it's mandated, all during the summer, teachers have been working on their professional development to be able to deliver at a quality level. So now that we're into the proactive path, the new model has to demand a full daily live instruction. So there's live instruction that's required and not just videos or not just someone going and just hearing a voice. It has to be live instruction. There has to be evidence of learning through assessments. So there are assessments that the school districts have to give, and they have to show that each individual student is learning. There has to be progress reports and grades. There are daily requirements of minutes of students being online, and there has to be a very structured and strict monitoring of attendance. We have continued to advocate for devices, and we're so pleased to know that it is on the agenda for our task force to consider approving the $10 million to help every student have a device. And it helps us, it actually accelerates our goal for our campaign, actually, All for One campaign. And then the requirement is parent communications too. So school districts have to communicate with parents, and they have to log it. They have to show when they've talked to parents, how they've engaged with parents, and office hours that have been open. So the parent communications is required. Because many of you are in positions of leadership and people reach out to you and they ask you for help and they say they've tried different things. I do want you to know that we at the county office, we have a support team. So while we do not direct the work of the individual districts, if you've exhausted everything, you could reach out to us and then we can help with the communication. We are good at that. So you do not hesitate to reach out to us if you need some additional support. Most districts are giving their teachers the choice to either provide their lessons from their actual classrooms where they would come into the building, or they would actually do it from home. Again, the concern for following health protocols with physical distancing and masks would be required. There has been a testimonial that's been going around from a superintendent principal in Arizona when he had his teachers come in, and one of them did contract the virus, and all three of them ended up contracting the virus, but one of them did pass away. So that has been on the people's minds. So they are very, very cautious about the staff-to-staff transmission of COVID-19. So in closing, the 4 things that I want you to know, I want you to know that remember that until the county is off the watch list for 14 consecutive days, we cannot open up our schools for face-to-face in-person instruction. We are under an order not to do so. The second thing is that families within our districts need childcare and assistance with supervision. So we must continue to explore ways to provide small groups of childcare in a variety of settings, including the daycare facilities, parks and recreation, community buildings, faith-based buildings, and repurposed storefronts. So in your cities, if you have space, we're asking people to work collaboratively to be able to provide some childcare for our parents who need it, who are essential workers. We do have some through the county, but there are going to be more now that distance learning will be continuing. Riverside and Alvord are in the process of creating a community partnership that will be able to be responsive to families who need to work and do not have childcare. The third thing, as I already mentioned, our All for One campaign is moving along. Every device counts. The bigger challenge is connectivity. So as city officials, you may want to consider how can we offer more connectivity in our city, because it's not just for students, but there's also for parents who are applying for jobs. It's for colleges, it's for doctor's appointments. You need connectivity. And then I do want you to be aware that when you look at the entire county, one of the districts that's under the most pressure because of COVID-19 is Coachella Valley Unified School District. So when you are able to provide support to them above and beyond, it's because they need it. I'll give you one example. When some of the students have been working with us for years and they have outstanding grade point averages, they completed their FAFSA, college, they want to go to college, but because of lack of connectivity, and colleges now actually inform you through an email, they didn't even know that they were accepted to their colleges of choice. Some colleges give you 1 week to respond back online. They had no connectivity to tell them, yes, I've accepted that particular offer. So those are real things that happen. There's some houses in Coachella Valley that do not have electricity. So we just need to be mindful of our entire community. My quote for the closing of this update: America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. And that was from Harry Truman, President Harry Truman. So at this time, I would like to open up, we have a minute for questions, if you have questions that I could answer. So thank you for this opportunity to give you a brief update.
I'm seeing nobody with their raised hand. Does anybody have questions for Dr. White? Mayor Bailey.
Dr. White, awesome as always, inspiring. Thank you so much for getting us refocused. I love that exercise as an educator, you know that, and then your summary statement there. Back to how we can help from a city perspective in terms of connecting students and parents to the internet. What do you think is the biggest need? Is it a computer? So, you know, libraries, is it physical computers? Is it Wi-Fi? Where can we be of greatest service?
Okay, so remembering that we've been doing this campaign on the individual computers, and that is working well, and we'll be able to do that. We're going to continue to do that, and if the Board of Supervisors do their CARES money approves that, we're going to be just about there. But the connectivity is where we need more help now. Because if you have a device and you can't be connected, what good is the device? And that is the area that we're more limited in making it real. So some cities have actually put towers and connectivity throughout their city, so it helps all of their families. And in those cases where that can happen, we would encourage that. And again, as you mentioned, sometimes when you're able to open up your libraries, use the health protocols, keep it minimized, then people can go in and get both. They can get a computer, access to a computer and connectivity. But just like Starbucks has, you go into the Starbucks places and you have connectivity, you go into some city buildings, you go into the hospital, there's connectivity. I think that cities may want to think about where else can we put connectivity that the families in that immediate area could have access to that Wi-Fi.
So it's broadband Wi-Fi that's the greatest need.
Yes. Thank you.
Victoria Baca.
Thank you, Chair Bass. Dr. White, I'll have our city manager send you some information on our Wi-Fi garden that we just recently implemented.
Outstanding. I think I read about that. And so that's an example, a Wi-Fi garden, the city taking responsibility to do something innovative as that.
Yes, yes. You'll get the information quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
As always, thank you, Dr. White. Really appreciate your time. I see no more questions. Have a great day. And moving on, right now we have a report from our Technical Advisory Committee Chair, Andy Okoro, our city manager. He is not here right now, I don't believe. So we will skip over that. Report from committee representatives, SCAG Regional Council, Policy Committee representatives. Anybody want to speak up? All right, Ben Benoit, how about you?
Sure. For AQMD, no major updates. So we haven't had our meeting. We're dark in July, but looking forward to meeting next week.
All right, thanks, Brian. Ben.
That's okay. Brian's next.
One of the B's.
I need to do this, Dr. White. Brian, anything from your neck of the woods?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. So we did have a CalCall Zoom meeting in July. And so they gave an update on the state budget, nothing that we don't already know. The biggest item up for discussion, they had an item on opposing racism and addressing equality. So they formed a subcommittee to look at issues and policies. But CalCall primarily though is a legislative body. So they really don't have contracts or things that would impact, groups per se, but they are going to look at everything through this subcommittee. And then some of the ideas that they have is they want to build stronger partnerships with equality organizations. They want to work to feature positive action of members. So they want to make sure that members, because we all represent different organizations, we're sort of saying the same thing, or, we're on providing a positive updates and stuff. And then also the CalCall wants to see if they can find a way that they can support our regional members as necessary.
And then if you go to the calcog.org, you can find the updates on bills that they oppose and support, and where a lot of those bills stand. So that's my update. If anyone has any questions.
Anybody have a question for Brian?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Brian. Sapa, Mayor Bailey.
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you, sir. SANDAG, Crystal Ruiz.
I think she had to step away.
Okay, so moving on, we will go to report from the Executive Director, Mr. Bishop.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Next slide, please. Just wanted to mention our grant writing program continues to bring in some considerable dollars for the sub-region. In the last week or two, you can see more than $31 million in grants that were awarded to the city of Riverside and to the county of Riverside. For the city, from the state's Strategic Growth Council, and then about a little more than $500,000 for the county of Riverside from the Department of Defense. So those are great partnerships, and they're paying large dividends for our member jurisdictions. So I wanted to apprise the board of that. Next slide, please. Again, also just wanted to mention, we've seen a lot of you participating in our monthly webinar series that's titled Future Forward, and the idea there is to deal with, how to govern during tough times and dealing with critical issues. Last week's issue of the month was transportation. We talked about, our speaker talked about transportation and how it's being impacted by COVID. We'll be having the next meeting coming up in August. We'll be getting information out to you real soon. Next. Also wanted to mention, Mayor Bailey teed this up a little bit earlier when we were having the discussion on Innovation 2030, so thank you for that. But during the course of every year, of course, we listen to our members and staff about issues that they're bringing forward, and then try to see if there's a way to fit them into a WRCOG profile or work with others to fit them somewhere. 3 issues have really gained a lot of traction over the course of the last few months, and we've shared these each with our admin committee at its meeting in June. They gave us the green light to go ahead with exploring the formation of an economic development corporation for Western Riverside County, also for formation of a regional housing trust for the same geographic area. I think everybody would agree that those are probably the 2 of the largest issues that are brought to mind in all of California. So we're working right now to do what we call discovery. We're meeting with a number of city managers and people that we think are influential in these arenas. We're hoping that those discussions will inform us as we develop and finalize our work program for these issues. We're going to be meeting with the city managers and executives technical advisory committee to discuss this in more detail. And in fact, we're meeting with all the city managers that we can individually before our meeting, the TAC meeting in August. We'll be doing the same thing for the Regional Housing Trust. It'll go a little bit behind schedule from the EDC. And then the third issue we're looking at is forming within WRCOG a GIS service bureau. We found in talking with a number of our member agencies, particularly the smaller jurisdictions, that they could use a lot of assistance in providing GIS information to the various planning and other applications that they have in their jurisdictions. And it occurred to us, we have a lot of GIS expertise in-house, and so we're looking at how we might be able to provide those services through a service bureau to the jurisdiction. So as we develop these work programs, evolve them further, we'll come back to the executive committee. And then in answer to your question, Mayor Bailey, there's a good chance we will be bringing a more detailed discussion as an item for the executive committee at its meeting in September. If not September, then I would certainly hope for October. With that, Mr. Chair, that completes my update.
Great. So do we have any items for future agenda? Anybody with suggestions? Seeing none. All right. General announcements. What's going on in your cities? Have you all painted the interiors of your homes? No. You realize at Costco or Home Depot, you can't even buy a roller. So, seeing that our next meeting and executive meeting will be scheduled Monday, September 14, 2020, 2 p.m. on the Zoom platform. Thank you all very much for coming.
Kevin?
Oh, I see Brian. Somebody over is waving goodbye. Okay.
Okay. I would like to add that there's a tiny little fire going ahead and burning in the 5th District right now. It's over 25,000 acres, and a good portion of it's gone into San Bernardino County, but everything along Cherry Valley, Beaumont, and Banning, and even out to Whitewater is starting to look pretty safe. So for those that are to the south of it, you're in pretty good shape. This is not going to do good for air quality. You know, this is going to be one of the largest fires ever in Riverside County. So they're doing a great job of it, and we've been lucky so far. Only lost a couple of structures at the most.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers to you, Supervisor.
Yeah, well, I've run at it on 2 days now, all the way around, and it's amazing how many assets we've got from all over the state, coming in from Central Coast and all of Southern California. So this is a good run. We got to get this thing done because there's going to be a lot more this year.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kathy, you want to stay on?
Staff would please stay online. Thank you.